Hello everyone. Now that we understand two-wire control and how it can be used in a manual operation or a fully automatic operation, we're going to look at three-wire control. Now three-wire control can only be operated manually. It requires an operator to start the motor running, either in the forward direction or the reverse direction. It also requires a pulse push button to stop it. I'll explain the operation when I demonstrate it. Now, you can have some hybrid applications where you have one point in a control scheme that'll set a motor running and another part that will turn it off. Like a point-to-point differential control, but I'm not going to cover that just yet. That'll be more in the advanced part of our training. We're just going to cover the basic three-wire control circuit. Now, what's important to know is, if I wire this normally closed stop button, this normally open forward button, and this normally open reverse button to the controller, the VFD, it won't operate in three-wire control mode until I program it. I'm going to show you where those parameters are. I'm going to show you how to program that when we get into our programming and wiring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly program this and wire it for three-wire and demonstrate the operation of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up for three-wire in the parameter group, and I will show you this in the programming manual. So I'm going to hit the center button. I'm going to scroll to the configuration menu, push the center button on the drive again. I'm going to enter the full menu, and I'm going to look for the input-output menu, and there it is, input-output. I'm going to press enter, and the first parameter group that comes up is TCC, type of control. Going to hit enter, and you're going to notice it says 2C, so it's set up for two-wire control. I'm going to take this little wheel, I'm going to scroll. Now I'm on 3C. Notice how it's flashing. I have to hold my finger on the button for, I think it's 3 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, and now it's stopped flashing. Now it's programmed for three-wire control. So now I'm going to set up the wiring and run it. So now I have it programmed for three-wire control, and I'll demonstrate operation for you. Now, three-wire control works the same way as it did with magnetic starters. If you're familiar with magnetic starters with push buttons, all you have to do is just push the button once, let go, and it runs. Okay? Now, if you want to stop it, you just push the button briefly, just a pulse to break the circuit, and it stops. I can do the same for reverse, so if I just pulse the reverse button, it runs in the opposite direction. Now, if there's a failure in the stop circuit, so if the contact falls off the back of the stop button or the wire breaks, so the drive doesn't see a signal from the stop button, you cannot start the drive. So it'll go into a fault. It's a fail-safe wiring circuit. It's called low voltage protection also, and I'll demonstrate that. So I'm going to run it. We're going to have a power failure. So you would use in say a commercial woodworking application where you're running large wood cutting equipment. If you have a circuit trip or a power failure, a resumption of power, our mains are back on, it doesn't run. It requires the operator to push the run button again. Now the only difference is on drives, if I have a ramp set, say I have a 3-second, 5-second, 6-second, 10-second ramp set, whatever, if I push reverse, watch what happens. It follows the ramp to a stop, and then it runs in the opposite direction. Typically with the starter, you would have to push the stop button, then change directions. So with this, you can run it in one direction. If I push the opposite direction, it will follow that ramp down and then change direction. So keep that in mind. That's a different way that they operate. Also, with three-wire control and multiple functions on one input, if you remember back to the first video of section 3, we talked about multi-function inputs. So right now we're running at 50 Hertz, both in the forward and the reverse direction. Watch what happens here. I'm going to run it in reverse. Okay? Now watch what happens if I hold my finger on the button. speeding up to 100. If I let go, it slows down. So I have added an extra function on that button so that if someone holds that button down, it'll run faster until they let go of it. Doesn't do it for forward, it only does it for reverse. So if now I'm in reverse, it's running at 50 Hertz, but if I hold my finger on the button, it speeds up. Okay, it's a little extra programming that we can add if we need it. Now, here's another function that we can use with 3-wire control. I believe we can also use this with 2-wire. This switch right here is connected to one of the digital inputs. If I activate this switch, it's telling the drive that it can only operate in jog mode. So jog mode is a mode where if you hold your finger on the button, something will rotate or move. When you let go, it stops. So it's only momentary. So if I hold my finger on this forward button, it runs. It only runs at 5 Hertz by default. And you can see it's running fairly slow. I let go, and now it'll do the same thing in reverse. It'll jog in reverse. So that's a jog selector switch. So you would use that for setting up tracking conveyor belts or a piece of equipment. You flip it into jog mode, and it just moves very slow for you. But now it's flipped to 2-wire control. 3-wire doesn't work now, because as soon as you let go, it stops. All right, so I'll flip it back to 3-wire, and away we go. So that's another one of those additional functions that you can add to your logic inputs.